In a world full of hatred and treacheries, armies confront the armies, and when the armies clash, innocence is often the first casualty. But what happens when the protectors become the perpetrators? When the world condemned the atrocities of the Holocaust, a nation cried out for justice when that same nation was accused of similar atrocities. The silence was deafening. No Gun Ri, the massacre. Yes, you heard it right. It was July 25th, 1950. A tragic event occurred during the Korean War, in which hundreds of South Korean refugees, mostly women and children, were killed by the United States military, especially the U.S. Air Force 7th Cavalry. The incident took place between July 26th to 29th, 1950, near the village of No Gun Ri in central South Korea. For those who don't know why was U.S. involved in this war and what actually happened Korean War and why this unfortunate massacre happened, let's dive deep into history. Korean War, which began on June 25th, 1950, when North Korean forces, backed by China and the Soviet Union, invaded South Korea. The United Nations, led by the United States, intervened on behalf of South Korea, fearing the spread of communism in East Asia. The U.S. military, led by General Douglas MacArthur, launched a series of military operations to push back the North Korean army. As the war raged on, hundreds of thousands of South Koreans fled their homes to escape the fighting. On July 25th, 1950, a group of refugees, including women, children, and the elderly, were stopped by American soldiers at a roadblock near No Gun Ri. The soldiers, fearing that North Korean soldiers were infiltrating the refugee group, opened fire on the crowd, killing and wounding many. Over the next 3 days, the refugees were subjected to repeated attacks by American aircraft and ground troops. Many were killed or wounded, and some were forced to flee into nearby tunnels, where they were trapped and killed by American soldiers. Survivors of the massacre reported that the U.S. military used napalm on the refugees, causing widespread burns and deaths. This use of napalm has been confirmed by declassified documents and eyewitness accounts. The U.S. Air Force also played a significant role in the massacre, with planes strafing and bombing the refugees. Declassified documents reveal that the CIA was involved in the Korean War, and one of their agents, Donald Nichols, was present in the area where the No Gun Ri Massacre took place. Nichols' role in the massacre is still unclear, but his presence raises questions about the CIA's involvement. The No Gun Ri Massacre was largely covered up by the American military, and it wasn't until 1999 that the incident became widely known, thanks to an investigative report by the Associated Press, AP, when 3 Associated Press journalists, Sang-Hoon Choi, Charles J. Hanley, and Martha Mendoza, brought the story to international attention. Choi had originally become aware of the allegations when one of the survivors wrote a book in 1994 about the events. Initially, the AP did not allow the story, but in 1998, he was able to pursue it with Hanley and Mendoza. They conducted an extensive investigation, including hundreds of interviews with veterans and Korean survivors and a review of thousands of military documents. However, they had to fight for close to a year to get the story published. Their original story, which included testimony from numerous U.S. soldiers and Korean survivors, prompted an immediate investigation by the U.S. military, and they won a Pulitzer Prize for their work. The United States Army conducted an investigation into the massacre, which concluded that the killings were an unfortunate tragedy inherent to war and not a deliberate killing. Then, President Bill Clinton issued a statement of regret, adding the next day that things happened which were wrong, but survivors' demands for an apology and compensation were rejected. However, many survivors and relatives of the victims disputed this finding, arguing that the killings were intentional and unjustified. In 2005, the South Korean government established a committee to investigate the massacre and provide compensation to the victims' families. The committee's report confirmed that the killings were carried out by American soldiers and estimated that 250 to 300 people were killed. South Korean government inquest certified the names of 163 dead or missing and 55 wounded, and added that many other victims' names were not reported. In 2011, the United States issued a statement expressing deep regret for the incident, but stopped short of issuing a formal apology. However, the remnants of the massacre declare the U.S. statement of regret as a whitewash and clearly claimed that it was a deliberate mass killing of innocent by savages. How could the U.S. military justify the use of napalm and aerial bombing against a group of refugees, knowing that it would cause indiscriminate harm to civilians? Why did the U.S. government refuse to issue a formal apology for the massacre, instead opting for a statement of regret that fell short of acknowledging responsibility? Why the so-called superpower that condemned mass killing during Holocaust not even bothered to formally apologize their savage behavior and atrocities at No Gun Ri? However, these are some questions that still need to be answered, because every life matters. If you enjoyed unraveling these untold stories and the lessons they hold, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more compelling accounts of the world's most significant wars and the events that shaped them. See you in the next episode, where history speaks louder than ever.